At this midpoint in the year of evaluation, I wanted to stop and reflect on the coming months and on the significance of this year for the development and evaluation communities. Between now and the end of 2015, 3 major events are scheduled, all of which have implications for development over the next 15 years and by association for the practice of evaluation. The first event, Financing for Development, will take place in Addis Ababa in mid-July. The second will be held in September and will mark the United Nations General Assembly's agreement on the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. And then there is the Climate Finance event, which will be held in Paris towards the end of the year. Let's start with Financing for Development, a subject that greatly interests me. There are 3 really big cornerstones to that agenda. One is the recognition of the critical importance of public domestic finance and local development processes. Domestic finance will outstrip the official development aid, and the Financing Development Agenda places particular emphasis on countries raising their own resources to support development. From an evaluation perspective, the reality suggests the need to invest more and more effectively in developing capacities for evaluation in the countries themselves. The evaluation community is already engaged, for example, through the DAC Task Force and the CLEAR Initiative, which is housed in IEG, in helping countries develop their evaluation capacities. But more needs to be done. One question that is often not addressed in this context is how we ensure newly developed evaluation functions can be strong and independent, speak truth to power, and not fall prey to pressures that may attempt to dictate what they can or cannot report. This is a major issue that the more experienced among us will have to address in the coming years. The second cornerstone to the Addis agenda is the emphasis on the greater role for the private sector in the development process. Of course, the private sector is not monolithic, and its engagement in development takes many forms. For example, there is the work of the private foundations who drive new and interesting ideas, including the use of new methods in evaluation. And there are private enterprises, institutional investors on the lookout for investment opportunities that need to be brought into this conversation. We have to think about how we engage such investors in a conversation that takes us from more traditional bottom line considerations to add a double or even a triple bottom line where other metrics relating, for example, to social and environmental concerns are taken into account. At IEG, we already engage with the private sector through our evaluation of IFC investments. However, the entire evaluation community, IEG included, will have to develop more effective ways of engaging with that sector if it is to play the catalytic role envisaged for it in supporting the achievement of the SDGs. The third dimension to the Addis agenda is the rapidly expanding question of pooled financing arrangements, whether in the form of public-private partnerships or through partnerships such as the Global Fund. And that too raises questions about methodology and other issues for evaluators. The adoption of the SDGs by the General Assembly in September will herald a new era in development. There are many more SDGs than there are MDGs, and they are more complex. The SDGs do not tackle simple linear problems, and this challenges our logical framework approach that is designed to track fairly linear results chains. To address this complexity, we will have to innovate in our evaluation practice. And I think it is time to take up that challenge. In any event, it will be necessary to do so to engage with the agenda of the third big event in the second half of 2015. That is climate finance and climate change, where climate events are much more complex. We will need methodologies in order to address that complexity and to support those who develop climate finance initiatives in proactively building evaluation into program design so that it is possible to pilot, test, and readjust programs based on strong evaluation evidence. Let me close on one other thing that's more directly focused on the evaluation profession. One of our core challenges is about increasing our influence. That means getting into fora where we're not talking to each other as evaluators, but where we're talking more frequently to policymakers and decision makers. They want to engage with evaluation findings that they can rely on in order to improve their decisions and make smarter choices for the world to come. In that regard, we need to be smarter and plan to influence from the outset. We need to make strategic choices about what we evaluate and to innovate on our methodologies, our processes of engagement, and our outreach. And then we have to figure out how we measure whether we are actually making a difference and address the whole question of value for money. Do we evaluators add to the conversation? And how do we best shift the needle and help to deliver evidence-based change and improvement? So the next 6 months herald a new era for development and for the evaluation profession. Together with my colleagues at IEG and in the broader evaluation family, I'm looking forward to taking on the many challenges so that we can contribute to a better world.